12 this morning. Tim Welsh, former Iona and Providence head basketball coach. I'm Ari Temkin. Disappointing ending to the season for the Big 12 and certainly for the Houston Cougars, who certainly had a team that could win a national championship, we thought, and they end up losing in the Sweet 16 due to injuries, no doubt about it. Ryan Monceaux, GoCoogs.com, joining us now to talk about it. Probably pretty obvious once Shed went down at the end of the first half that this is going to be a tough hill to climb for the Cougs, Ryan.
Yeah. When Jamal went down, Duke was 4 of 17 shooting the ball. And that's where Jamal is in his element, his defense, point of attack. 4 of 17, so 23%. The rest of the game, they were 16 of 32. 50%.
Yeah, Ryan, I thought Kelvin Sampson's words after were spot on, just talking about Jamal Shed and his leadership role. Sometimes these things can be overstated by coaches, but I thought he was really great talking about him. And, what was the reaction from not only Kelvin Sampson, but the players and the Cougar community about Shed going down?
It was you just knew that was the straw that broke the camel's back, Jamal has been the leader of this program for a couple of years, and Kelvin has said, I think publicly and certainly privately to me and others, that Jamal's the best point guard he's ever had, and he's given him so much trust on the court as his eyes and ears. And when he went down, the team played kind of out of control for the rest of the first half. They were frantic. They were taking shots that they just wouldn't have had Jamal been in there. If Jamal would give them a calming hand signal just to relax, to chill out. And they didn't have that. And they struggled there at the end of the half and had it back a little better in the second half, just could never quite get over that hump.
When you look at the luck or lack thereof for Houston over the last 3 years, how do you sort of characterize the feelings of Cougars fans with the disappointment?
Not this again. You lost Marcus Sasser and Tremont Mark 2 years ago. Last year, there were injury issues. Reggie Chaney, who passed away in August, in one of those super secret scrimmages to start the year, he broke his hand. And he couldn't make a fist the entire year. He famously told GoCoogs.com that he told his teammates, don't pass me the ball because I can't catch it because I have a broken hand. And then this year, you go from you lose Terrence Arsenault, you lose JoJo Tugler and Ramon Walker within about a week of each other in late February, early March. Juwan Roberts suffered a knee injury in December that lingered the entire year. And then at OU on March 2nd, he caught his hand, the webbing of his hand between his thumb and his index finger. He caught it on a player's bicep, and it ripped it open. He needed 7 stitches in the arena. And then it was ripped open a few days later at UCF and was still playing with that bandage on Friday. So, you just had all these injuries and things that it feels like this team overachieved in some ways, but underachieved in others. With the injuries, you've gotten the second weekend all 3 years. You got to the Elite Eight and then 2 Sweet 16s. Some fans might have had their mind set on a national title, and it was national title or bust, but that's a ridiculous notion that you can never tell what's going to happen. But I think that overall, once fans had time to sleep and digest, they see how special this team was. But for luck, it could have been a much different story.
Yeah, Ryan, it's good points by you. And, just to me, this pictures, the video that I saw of the players hugging Jamal in the locker room, and then the Duke players paying their respects as well. It just tells you so much about his leadership. I mean, how are they going to overcome him not being in the program? And what's the future look like with LJ Cryer? I know he has another year left. And, what's the roster look like at this point, and what do you think it's going to look like come fall?
So Kelvin has told us that they know who's coming back and who's not. They have not told us anything about that. Every guy on the roster that's a senior has another year thanks to COVID. Even Jamal Shedd, even Juwan Roberts, even LJ Cryer. As far as who is going to choose to leave and who's going to stay, we just don't know that yet. Malik Wilson, the backup point guard, told us after the game that he would stay and would be back. But as far as the others, I don't really have a feel for it. My thought is Jamal is going to test out NBA draft waters, look at his options for overseas, G League, whatever else. Personally, I think he would make more money coming back to U of H and having the NIL deals that he has now and more. You're looking at close to $1 million. Juwan Roberts could do very well with NIL. I don't know what he would do in pro. I don't think he gets drafted. LJ, kind of the same thing. But coming back means you start training, you start workouts June 1st. That's 2 months from today. Are you willing to put in that 10 months of Kelvin Sampson kind of boot camp style work for 10 months? I mean, you've got to be bought in completely to want to come back. And I think that's probably the struggle is, do I want to move on? Do I want to come back and commit this way? So we don't really have a huge knowledge of what this roster is going to look like next year. You'll return Javier Francis. You'll return Emmanuel Sharp, 2 starters. Emmanuel had started to come on in Big 12 play, had 30 against A&M, was shut down by Duke. JoJo Tugler returns, and he showed as much promise as anyone showed in a freshman season. And then you've got 2 red shirts, a point guard, shooting guard out of Dallas, and then a big man that was 6'10", but weighed about 175 when he got here. Just needed a year to get bigger and to understand the program. It's a lot of question marks. And the way this all set up, you could have seen it as a Final Four or national title game kind of run. Maybe Kelvin Sampson rides off into the sunset. But it didn't happen that way. So I think it's all up in the air at this point.
Yeah, well said. Ryan Monceaux, GoCoogs.com. Appreciate your time, Ryan. Thank you very much.
Great. Thanks, guys.
Ryan Monceaux breaking down his thoughts on Houston's loss in the Sweet 16. Tim, I mean, you hurt in some ways for Kelvin Sampson. He's such a good coach, has been and had so many good teams for so long. You'd like to see him, he's got to a Final Four but win a national championship, and obviously that this was a year that you thought maybe that could happen, and it just, again, the injuries completely derailed this thing, and that happens in sports. It's just disappointing for Kelvin Sampson for it to happen again.
I think they're going to take the next step. I mean, obviously they could have taken that step this year without some bad luck, but now they've got momentum as a Big 12 member. They've known they're going to be in the Big 12 for a year or so, but now they're there, and they proved that they're at the top of the Big 12 amongst the elite, amongst the Kansas, Baylor's, Iowa States of the world, and that's only going to help the recruiting. And I think people when you watch them play, people are going to want to go there and play. You see the home court, the environment, as Ryan said, the NIL opportunities as well, and to be coached by one of the top coaches in all of college basketball. So they're on the big stage, and they'll stay on the big stage. There's no doubt about it as Houston moves forward. And I'd like to see Kelvin Sampson stay on for a while. But we don't want to lose all the old guard in this game, and he certainly is one of the elite.